What's up, Tutorinos, and welcome back to the Game Addicts podcast, a show where we're talking about the modern and retro video games that we play and collect and all that jazz. I am this podcast player, Brando, and joining me here today as this podcast player, too, is the one and only podfather, Nate Phillips. How you doing, bud?
Press X to continue. Press X to continue.
Press X to Jason.
Oh, yes, that's a Heavy Rain reference. That's so great that you're saying that, Brando. That ties so well in with later on in this episode, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the airwaves here on the Game Addicts podcast. I am due to record the next deep dive, and I'm still going to do that. However, I wanted to touch on this because I haven't been touching on gaming news lately, and there's a lot of good reasons why, and a lot of it is steered towards negativity. And even though there's a lot of good news to talk about, it just always seems like every time you turn around, every time you go around the corner, there's just more negative news and negative. I'm not sure if fan base or just internet reactions, because you see it in different communities. You see it like in the Star Wars community a lot. You see it, and even in the gaming world a lot. When things don't go our way, there's a certain group of people that basically are the loudest. And
look to Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
Didn't that company just get held up with apparently like they had been data breached or some shit?
Yeah, and their source code for Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk got sold online in a black or a dark web auction.
Now, what does that mean?
I don't know. Because the way that I would think is that Cyberpunk or CD Projekt Red would have those source codes copyrighted. In that if you use that source code to make your own game and they can trace it back to the original source code, they can sue you. Now, I don't know if that's truly the case, but that's the way that I've always thought, like, source codes on programs, on games and stuff like that works in general copyright law. But no, you're right. I've played some Cyberpunk. I don't hate it. Is it perfect? No, far from it. Should it have been released when it was? No. And I guess maybe it's the hype train. We got too hyped. We got too hyped for Game of Thrones, and it didn't live up to a lot of people's expectations. We got too hyped for new Star Wars content, and it didn't live up to expectation. We got too hyped for Cyberpunk. Thankfully, didn't get too hyped for some other properties. FF7 remake it wasn't bad, and however, there's a certain group of people who are really angry about that game.
You can't make everyone happy all the time.
No, but like when you peruse and try to be involved in an online community, I'm the positive guy. I like to look at the positive things in everything. Try to find it. Even if it's something...
At least the graphics don't look like Pong.
Pong, right? But I mean, try to find the positive in every situation and look at it from take myself and my own biases out of the situation and say, okay, what do I not like about this? Okay, why don't I like it? And not just yell at the top of my lungs. And therefore, when I do that, I immediately remove the extreme emotional response, I guess, that I would have. Sometimes I even find that there's more that I like about it than I originally realized. But it just seems like, as a whole, that whole side of the community is just, it's not that fun to talk about. And I don't want this show to be negative. I've always wanted this show to be an escape. Just like when you play games, like we're a show that talks about games, and maybe during a certain segment and portion of this show's run, we spent too much talking about gaming news and not focusing on the actual individual games. And just, here's an episode all about Knights of the Republic, which I did a while back. There's your Resident Evil episode. I'm still working on Resident Evil 2 and 3 from that run. But this episode, I felt like there is some news that has come out that I have not touched upon. And now, if you follow me on Twitter, I probably have retweeted it, so you know that I'm aware of it. But they have announced the release date for the Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster. And I'm a huge Mass Effect nerd. It's one of my favorite series of all times. And the series has been stuck in limbo unless you have a PC or an Xbox of some sort. You can still play them on there, but if you're a PlayStation guy, you're SOL. To play the original trilogy, and they're finally bringing the original trilogy, putting a fresh coat of paint on it, and bringing it to the more modern consoles. It will be released for PS4 and Xbox One, but they are going to benefit from the newer consoles as well. And if you have a One X or PS4 Pro, they're going to run at 4K, 60 frames per second, and so they're doing a lot of stuff to that. And I wanted to talk about that because Nate, you haven't played too much of the Mass Effect trilogy. You dabbled, from what I understand, right?
Yeah, so I played, I would say, a good 2/3 of the first game, and it took me until the second game came out to get that far. So then I just was like, well, might as well start the second game and see what that's about and kind of get an idea. So I played an hour and a half of the second game or something, and then, of course, at that era of life, I was getting all kinds of games and stuff coming in because I was working at GameStop and whatnot. So it kind of, flashed forward, as it were, to Mass Effect 3 coming out. And again, I picked it up. I played it. I have all the collector's editions except for the first one because I'm an idiot. Working at GameStop, you see that the $70 collector's edition's online only, and you can pre-order it in your store, and you're like, whatever. And I was just like, whatever. And now I kick myself for that decision all the time.
And that's a really cool, interesting collector's edition, because the other two are a little bit more traditional, I guess, in the sense of how it's a collector's edition. But the first one is like a tin. It's like a metal tin, and inside is a cardboard, like almost like a digipack.
Yep.
For the game. I remember for the longest time I had a dented up, broken Mass Effect 1 collector's edition without the game that I bought from a local store for $5. Simply because he had no price on it and it had no game. And I asked what he was going to sell it for, and he goes, I don't know. Shoot me an offer. And I was buying other stuff, and I said $5. So he gave it to me. But then, because I'm a whore,
ooh.
Yeah, I found a pretty much really mint copy at another store years later for like $20-$25, and I'm like, I'm buying it. I have to get the nice one. So then, now that I had my original copy, and now I have a really nice pristine collector's, I have collectors of 2 and 3. I went back to the store and I bought the original ship copies of 2 and 3 on 360, and I have the trilogy on PS3, and I have Mass Effect 3 Special Edition on the Wii U.
Ladies and gentlemen, he loves the series Mass Effect. Do you not understand?
So the only ones I don't have are the standalone copies of 2 and 3 on the PS3. The reason I don't is because the only way to get a standalone copy of the first game, physical, in the United States, is to import it from Europe. Because they didn't release it.
And you don't want to go start that whole thing where you got to go import the game from Europe and then go track down 2 and then go track down 3. It's
they're
too
not,
much.
I mean, and 2 and 3 aren't expensive, but I don't really feel like spending $10 to $15 plus shipping to get
and
the
spoiler alert, I think you already have copies of the game.
Yeah, I have a couple. I have a couple. And also, so I originally got Andromeda on the PS4. And then they did a really cool update patch for the One X, for the Xbox One X. And so I found a copy for the Xbox One for Andromeda for $3.
Whoa.
And I fired it up once or twice, and it does look pretty nice. But guys, we are getting the official Trilogy remaster on sometime in May something. I actually don't know the actual hard date, but I know it's May, because we have a conundrum here, Nate. Before I actually dive into what they're changing about the game or doing anything,
Sure.
Did you know that they are releasing a collector's edition for the Trilogy remaster?
Wait, something that already exists is getting a re-collector's edition?
Yeah.
No, man, that's not how you want to do it.
All right.
You want to drop a collector's edition at the height of excitement for something, not on the tail of some nostalgia, because you're going to get the hardcore collectors, but here's what's going to happen. Very much like those legendary helmets you can find everywhere at your local goddamn, disc replay for $4.99 from Halo 3. Like, they're going to become inexpensive. You're going to find them everywhere because no one's going to buy them. They're going to sit on the shelf for years, and they're going to get clearanced out, and that, you know what I'm saying? So I think that is silly to me. Why are you doing a collector? Unless you're like, nah, dog, the collector's edition is amazing, and if you're a fan, you have to have it. Like, it's amazing.
So I sent you a link of what comes in it.
Okay, I'm going to look right now.
It's funny you said legendary helmet, because that's literally what this is. It's
holy hell, are you kidding me right now?
You get the N7 1-to-1 scale replica helmet with LEDs that change the colors from blue to red.
And it's wearable, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of dope. Because that's one of my biggest complaints for the Legendary Edition of Halo 3. You can't wear the helmet. Doesn't make sense.
All right, so then you get like a steelbook, right? And then you get some art, canvas art print of FemShep and of the Normandy SR1. You get a printout.
Morality pins. You
get a printout of Commander Shepard's acceptance letter into the N7 program. So that's a little nice tidbit of lore. Signed by the man, Captain David Anderson. And you get an enamel pin that actually swivels for the Peregrine Renegade morality. So
damn, I'm like blown away by it. Looking at it, it's actually cool. Now, wait, what? Hold on. Time out. I'm reading, and I just got to a thing and a line.
Yeah.
And now I am concerned on a level that is profound. Because now, why are you hyping it like this? Advertising differently, you shits. One Mass Effect Legendary Edition metal game case. Parentheses. Game not included. Parentheses. What?
Yep. Yeah.
I'm looking around everyone. What?
All right. So this isn't the first time they've done this. They did this with Andromeda, and I talked about it here in the show. I had to because I was pretty angry about it. They had two different a collector's edition for the Andromeda set. There was a $100 one that came with a statue of the car.
Yeah.
And then there was a $200 one that came with a remote control car of the car that you could control with your cell phone. It had a little camera on the front of it, and you connected it through Bluetooth, and you had like your little like go forward, go back, turn left, turn right. It looked, and I've seen it in action. It looks freaking cool. So $200 for that, and you still don't get the game.
So then, really, it's $260 is the base price
for the base price for Andromeda. Of course, then they also had the deluxe version of Andromeda, which cost like $75 after tax, which gave you extra downloadable stuff.
Man, that's
so I boycotted that one. As much of a collector I am, I boycotted it and said I'm not going to support that. Because I was just like, you need to give me the game. You know, I remember there was a Halo collector's edition at some point I want to say it might have been the Master Chief Collection, but it might have been Halo 5. I don't really remember at this point. It's been years. But when you got your collector's box, it came with a code, a download code, not a hard copy. And several Halo fans were like, hey, what the hell?
I think that was Halo Wars 2.
It was Halo something. All I know is that Microsoft said, all right, send us back the code and we'll send you a physical copy of the game. So cool, they made it right. I mean, that's pretty much the MO for anything Xbox related. They make a decision, then they have to either like follow through with it or succumb to fans' ire, which is that has been the entire Xbox One experience in a nutshell. It's like,
for sure,
here's the Xbox One. Here's all the stuff we're going to do with it. All right, a week later, we're not doing any of that stuff anymore. And then we fired the guy that made all those decisions. And then it's like, here's the tail end. Oh, we're going to double the price of Xbox Live at the end of the day. We decided not to do that after all. Seems like that would be a very bad idea. I don't know. We heard a little bird tweeting out a little tweet message saying, I'm going to PlayStation Plus. Anyways, no, Nate. I am disappointed that this, that this set's a really cool set. It's $150. So it's not quite 200, but I gotta admit, I want it.
The helmet is dope.
I want the fucking helmet, and that's my crux. If this were a remote control or statue of the Mako or Mako from the game, no, I don't care about that. But that helmet, are you telling me that I don't? When we get our room all situated and get our new podcasting place set up with me in the other corner, and you'll actually be able to see stuff behind me, including. Just like the old MTV Cribs, where the magic happens. You'll be able to see the bed in the background. But you're telling me that I'm not going to have like my dresser or like a bookshelf up in the corner and you're not going to be able to see that helmet?
And you can flick it on during the show and have it glowing, of course. And change the color, red or blue.
Yeah.
And think about it. Here's another thing, too. Just the Power Rangers helmets alone that are like the officials from Hasbro are $100. And they don't have lights. So that's a pretty, honestly, not a bad deal. But that's what I said initially. Market it differently. If this would have come out as we are currently getting ready to be releasing an exclusive Mass Effect, helmet, and they just dropped this helmet with those little goodies inside, would you still be jazzed?
Yes, but I probably would. It might be harder for me to pick it up. Because if they released it by itself, maybe... the price would be cheaper and they would be going quicker. Because, see, here's the deal about the Mass Effect community. We're a diehard bunch. We are whores for anything new. We are the ones that keep this entity alive. Despite all of BioWare's efforts to not have it be alive through their missteps and everything. No, it's the fans that keep it alive. And so when they release a new scale gun or a new scale model of the ship or this or that, a pin set. No, people buy that stuff. I'm still kicking myself to this day for not buying the rest of the pop vinyls when they were released. I have 2 from the original set, and one of them's worth like $150. And the other ones are almost worth that now because like you've been in that pop collecting world. Anything that has a unique mold to help make that character look like that character is going to be more expensive.
It becomes more valuable, and then also the fandom causes the value to go up. How many people are looking for the thing, and then how many pieces actually exist in the world. And then you just basic math, man. Supply and demand, bro. Supply and demand.
Yeah, and like the pluses and negatives to this thing, because as I said, I boycotted the Andromeda set because there wasn't enough there to entice me, and I didn't like the fact that the game's not included. I still don't like the fact that the game's not included, but I'm looking at it through a different light. Back 3 years ago, I probably would have been throwing my fist up in the air and really angry and cussing. I want to do that. They're selling this exclusively on the BioWare site. So
it's not like it's going to be at retail.
Yeah, it's not going to be at GameStop where they're selling you a collector's edition that doesn't take the game. You have to go to the BioWare store to even know it exists, Where and what is centrally located on the BioWare store? It is, they have apparel,
Mass Effect gear,
but they have gear, they have apparel, but they also have collectibles. Like the point is to go there for their officially released collectibles. And so, like, on one hand, like, it's like, yes, I want to like throw my hands up and like, why can't you just give us a copy of the game? But this is the second time they've done it. Me boycotting the first time around didn't do anything. They're still doing it.
Correct. Well, and then here's the other thing too, Brando. The way it seems in the situation, they're putting it out there for the niche collector.
Yeah.
Those of you who know and want, and they know they can drop it on their Twitter and it's going to catch the buzz. And the people with the money to afford it are going to come out and buy it, and they'll eat the few that don't get sold right away or whatever. And maybe they sit on their site for 6 months till they clearance out or whatever. But honestly, like, I like Mass Effect. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I like Mass Effect. I don't like it like you like it, but damn, do I love that helmet. It looks incredible.
So there was even... and I don't know if it was the remote control. It might have just been the statue. Was actually discounted on the BioWare store to $50, so half off. And I went, that might look cool in the game room. And then I went, no.
Because if you get that, then you're going to have the itch to collect the rest of it, and then that becomes a game.
Well, yeah. I mean, so if I can pull it, that's $150. Plus shipping, because the free shipping was only for the first week, and I didn't have enough money to buy it in the first week. I am going to get the game. I think I'm going to get it on the Xbox, because I don't think I'm going to have a PlayStation 5 by then. I mean, let's just be real.
Well, so we're praying for a couple miracles here. Need that Biden stimmy. Need a restock of PS5.
Dude, the
stimmy and a restock.
Okay, so... I could pull a Dick Tyner and get one at Best Buy.
Using your credit card.
Yeah.
Did she just yell from the other room, babe, don't think about it? Because that's what it sounded like.
She might have. I mean, she knows what Basically, if a PS5 props up on Best Buy, I plan to buy it if I can get one.
Sure.
Because obviously... I would then pay that card off immediately through stimmy money or tax, whatever, right? That was the plan. Well, they just released a new stock of Best Buy on Friday at noon. Where was I at? At work.
Did it already sell out?
Within minutes.
Why is it still so redonkulously hot this far in? Like, what is it, like 6 months? The wave is the first 6 months of a system and then it cools off. I know it wasn't the same for Wii because the Wii was a very unique thing. But I feel like in my prior experience, it's only usually the first 6 to 8 months that a system is hot like this.
When I got the PS4, I pre-ordered it. I was able to get it on launch night because I pre-ordered it like within days after E3 when it was the big announcement, right? The big, or we knew about the PS4, but we did not know price point, all that stuff. It's that classic E3 where Xbox is like TV, sports, Connect, Call of Duty, and then it was like. Well, what about the price point? $500. Okay, well, what about the internet? It's got to be connected all the time. What about the Connect? Got to be connected all the time. What about used games? Won't play used games. And then PlayStation's like, it's going to play used games. You don't need the internet. It won't come with a camera, and it's $100 cheaper. And it was just.
A Macho Man elbow drop off the top. Oh, yeah. Dig it.
So I got one, and I went on launch night, and I picked it up. You could not do that. Like, the pre-orders were all online. So the pre-orders, just like how they're selling out now really fast, that's how fast the pre-orders would sell out. So when they started those back in September, they were gone like that. And then, okay, so, like, if you bought it through GameStop or then when you bought it, you had to have the money right then and there to pay it off right then and there. Or if you on Walmart, it would charge your card to make sure you had the money, and then they would give it back, which is really weird. But it would be like, do you really have this much money? Because if you don't, we're going to cancel it. Yeah, okay, he's got that much money. All right, give him the money back. We won't charge him until it ships. And then Amazon was like, we'll just charge you when it ships. And hopefully you remember when it's going to ship. That way you have the money in there, and you're just not like, oh man, that rent's due, and then you get hit with that $500 rent's not getting paid this month, baby. I got that PS5.
You got the PS5 blues.
But no, I'm probably not going to have a new console because I've pretty much almost just given up at this point. Wait another year.
I kind of want to wait, not necessarily another year, but I do kind of want to wait until maybe the design gets slimmed down a little bit, because when that usually happens around Christmas time of the following season, you can get hella deals. And then they'll be like, oh, by the way, those games you missed that came out in the first year, we're going to bundle them with all this exclusive shit now and make it cool. And you're like, oh, yeah, this is a great deal. I'm going to get it for Christmas.
And, that could be within a year or two. But, I mean, because that thing's a monster. I'm not sure if you've seen it on somebody's shelf. It's big.
It's a big boy.
So I plan on getting the Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster for the Xbox One X, because that's the most powerful last-gen console that I have. So, Nate, have you heard anything about what they're doing to bring these games up to speed?
No, but I imagine you're going to fill me in. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because, I mean, they made videos upon videos. But they're trying to make the first game more in line with the other two games control-wise, because obviously that first game, when you play that first game now, oh boy, it feels dated. Pretty dated. It's old. I mean, this game was in development before they released Gears of War. So, they released Gears of War, and then this game came out and was not quite Gears of War. And then BioWare's like, oh, that's how you do a cover shooter. All right, we'll borrow a little bit of that and
yoink.
And you make Mass Effect 2 with it. You're like, hey, Gears of War, you got the chainsaw. Mass Effect 2, you've got the biotic charge.
Oh, yeah.
But no, so they're going to try and make it a little bit more fluid. I think they're doing snap targets with the aiming, so you're not it's not so odd to aim. They are doing HUD, they're redoing the HUD to make it more congruent with the other two games. So it looks like it fits. The graphics are getting a huge overhaul of Mass Effect 1.
Well, of course, over. What is it? Mass Effect came out in 2007.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's 14 years old.
Yeah. Man.
Damn.
Makes you feel old now because you were there when that game launched at GameStop.
I was, in fact, standing behind that shelf, pushing that game like pills to the addicts. Hey, man, you want this game? It's that RPG scratch you've been looking for.
And some minor stuff. Level progression will change a little bit, where you don't have to have a new game plus to get to level 60. They're releasing all the DLC except for one. The Pinnacle Station DLC for Mass Effect 1, which was not included with the Trilogy set on PS3, is also not in this one because of the source code. It's corrupted. Now, if you have it on 360, you can still play it. It's downloadable on there. So for whatever reason, they couldn't put it in there because they would have to rebuild it from the ground up, and they didn't want to do that. Another thing they're not putting in is the multiplayer from 3, because they said in order to put that in with everything that they were doing, it was going to cost as much time as what they were putting into 1 to bring it up to speed. So. Also, this game is still in Unreal Engine 3. They were talking about putting it into 4, but there were certain proprietary aspects from the games in 3 that wouldn't be brought over. They would have to remake those from scratch. So it really sounds like this project was given the most minimal budget possible to bring the games forward. So in other words, not a remake. They can't remake them. They can't do all that stuff, but they could try and put a fresh coat of paint on it. And the games will launch on a single launcher, so you'll launch the game and you'll be able to pick Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3. And also the character creation, which is mostly the same, has now been uniform across the 3 consoles, or 3 systems. Damn it.
Nice.
3 games, not 3 consoles or systems. It's the same 3 games.
I knew what you meant.
They didn't have an official FemShep design until 3, right? So when they gave her own actual canonized design in 3, they made the cover flippable, so you can have male or female ship depending on which was your preference. Well, now you can have that default female ship from 3 all the way in the first game. So
nice.
Yeah, they're making some some changes, and like after the show, maybe I'll show you some of the comparisons from what they've kind of shown off. 2 and 3 are not going to get a big, massive overhaul because those are the more recent games, 2009, 2012, and if you play them today, they don't feel incredibly outdated. Essentially, I want to say they did some work for the Mako too. They made it to where they made fixes to the physics engine for it, and they gave it a boost option to where it'll travel faster. so if you just want to get done with those sections faster, you can try and get it done faster.
Yeah.
But no, I'm super excited the fact that it's coming out and completely playable on modern consoles, because, as I said, they are backwards compatible on the Xbox One or Xbox Series S. If you have that console and you have the original games, I want to say they're even on EA Play. If you have Game Pass, you can get them on there.
Nice.
So, they're out there and they're available. But my kid is out there crying because he's like, I want to play this on a PS5, and we ain't got one. So, it's not going to happen, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm right there with you.
I can't help you.
No, but this, they released a lot of remasters,
Oh, yeah, it's become the trend in video games.
But there's more to be done. We can do a lot more. So the rest of this episode, we're going to dedicate to. I made a list. Nate made a list. We don't know what each other's lists are about games from days gone by that have not received the remaster treatment. Now, the only thing that I will say about this is that the same rules apply as the Mass Effect trilogy. We're not rewriting the story. We're not rewriting the game. We're not making a whole new game based off the older game. This isn't a remake. This is a remaster. So basically, the game pretty much the gameplay can be tweaked. The gameplay can be, augmented. The graphics can be given a really good shine coat of paint. But ultimately, this is an old game being brought forward, and it's just going to look prettier and be presented prettier. But, Nate, I will let you go first, since you said you were able to create a little bit of a list, and we'll see if any of our stuff matches.
So I have 7 official picks, 1 bonus pick. I will make my first pick of these Alan Wake.
No, that's cool. That's a good one.
I loved that game. I thought it was very, very creative. I loved the gameplay mechanic with the flashlight, the story. Everything about that game was awesome. It is still to this day one of my favorites from the 360, and I would love to see it modernized, graphically enhanced, get those black colors even darker on those 4K televisions, and really drive home the horror aspect and the suspense aspect of that game.
I believe that game is just like the Mass Effect trilogy. It is backwards compatible, but it would benefit a lot from that 4K remaster and getting that older game. And see, that's a cool thing about the remasters. These are older games, and so the newer hardware can push those to 60 frames and keep that 4K resolution as well. So that is a really good pick. I'm kind of mad I didn't think about that one. Because that,
sorry, not sorry. I'm glad I picked it. Damn it!
But this next one, it's almost a cop out because it's kind of been done before.
Okay,
but not completely. The Metal Gear Solid series. So they've done remasters of 2, Sons of Liberty, and Snake Eater 3, and of Peace Walker, right? That was released on the PS3 and 360 respectively. However,
they also had the Vita versions of 2 and 3.
Yes. And then if they also had a collection on the PS3, which had a download code for the PS1 Classic of MGS1. They had the remasters of 2, 3, Peace Walker, and it included MGS4. So this is a complete 4K 60 frame upgrade, and it's going to have, MGS1, 2, 3, Peace Walker, 4, 5, and Twin Snakes.
Wow. I will love that. Having Twin Snakes is dope because definitely unique, upgrade to the graphical content instead of going with the classic MGS1 call that most people will use. That's something that hasn't been touched. It is also funny because I have something, and maybe that can just be my next topic after we get out here, but I do also have something from the GameCube I think that needs to come to the modern era. So
hell yeah. Now see, I would also include the original PS1 entry as so I would have that one. It'd be MGS1 plus VR missions. So you could play that. And for that one, you're just getting you're not getting a really crazy graphical upgrade for that. You're just getting the original game in its original presentation in a 4K resolution. So it's not as jagged. It's not blown up super bad. We're going to increase the resolution on it, but we're not going to make it that much prettier. That's where the Twin Snakes version, you can dial in that resolution and make it high def looking, And so you get that version, and that's why, you already have the remasters from Blue Point on 2, 3, and Peace Walker on PS3. So you just port those over, up-res those a little bit, hey, there's the same games already. But then MGS4 has been tied to the PS3. It hasn't been the only way that you can play that on the PS4, and I believe it was on there. I'm not sure if it is, but it was on PlayStation Now, and you can't download those to your system on PS3 for the PS3 games. You have to stream them. So that's a little bit of a mixed bag experience. So okay. I would want a full 4K 60 frames port of that, and since we already have all the other ones, why not include 5? And give it a slight little just resolution bump because the game is already really good gameplay wise.
Does that mean you then need to also somehow decide to include Rising? Because
well, this is just the Solid series.
Okay, I love that. Yes,
and you can call it the Metal Gear Solid collection, and have and it's like the Solid HD, whatever. But no, I really like the idea because literally Twin Snakes was remade on the GameCube and it has been completely forgotten about. I understand why Kojima, when he did 4, didn't use graphics from that version because that's not his version. That's not the one he made, right? But there's one thing he did take from that game, and that was their decision to lessen the accents from Mei Ling and Naomi Hunter. So, he did bring that forward. When you play through the Shadow Moses section of MGS4 on PS3, and you hear flashbacks of Mei Ling, she's talking, and it's audio from the Twin Snakes version or re-recorded, whichever they did. But yeah. So, what's your next one?
Going with a GameCube classic that I think gets totally undercut, no one talks about. It is the granddaddy, as it were, to No More Heroes. I'm talking Killer 7.
Nice.
I think that game would do very well to get a modern uptick, as it were.
Killer 7. I'm trying to remember that. I remember the box art, but I never played it. So what's the game? What's the core gameplay?
Essentially, you're a lead assassin, and I'm pretty sure what happens is there's a mass betrayal. I can't, man. It's been at least a decade since I played the dang game, and of course I'm a big fan of No More Heroes, but No More Heroes has recently been remastered. So I mean, PS3 had a remaster for it, so I chose to not go with it. But
yeah, so that's right. Killer 7 was also on the PS2. Okay, I remember seeing that in the old family video.
Yes.
When I was looking for games to rent. But no, good pick. My next one is this is another multi-pack here, but the Dead Space trilogy.
Yes.
I am shocked they have not done this. Now, this is from EA. So EA, they only got into the remaster game about a year and a half ago with Burnout Paradise. And then, like, of course, there's been that low underground hum and, shaking the fist about doing a Mass Effect trilogy, a remaster. But after that, because the real down spiral of this is that who made Dead Space? Was that Visceral?
Dead Space. I'm trying to look over at it.
I'll just Google it. Well, EA published it, but I'm talking about the actual. Visceral Games. Visceral Games developed it. EA took them out back and shot them in the head. So Visceral no longer exists. But if you can get a good team that could bring these games up to speed a little bit, now you don't have to do much for the gameplay wise because the gameplay is pretty fine. If you need to tweak it and fix some bugs, that's one thing. But for the most part, can you imagine uphauling the graphics to be in that 4K resolution, 60 frames, and as you said, blacken the blacks, darken that game up a bit to make it pop on that 4K screen, and this. When these games came out, especially the first one, it scratched that Resident Evil itch that Resident Evil 4 and 5 were not scratching. Those games became more action games. This game brought back that suspense.
Oh, yes, it did.
That tension. That is something that I feel they brought back to Resident Evil with the RE2 remake and even RE7. Bring back the tension, because when you feel like you're like this, that's when you got a good scary game. Because when you're already on edge, then they can jump at you or they can scare you easier, rather than when you're just lean back action game. So now Dead Space trilogy, bring it.
I love that one. Let's stick with Xbox 360 world. I'll bring a deepo cut. If we're talking horror, I want a remaster of Clive Barker's Jericho.
Wow, that's going back.
I loved that game. You were the multiple different characters with the multiple different crazy powers, the horror-based setting, the graphics were crazy, the monsters were creepy. Everything about that game was tight. It just needs a graphical update and it would still be on point.
No, see, that takes me back, because that was was that a launch title or near launch title?
I would say
first year?
Early 2007.
Okay.
Because it came out when I was at GameStop. Because that's why I have the collector's edition of it, because I was like, ooh, this looks dope, and it's Clive Barker. I'm about that. I
remember it being pretty early. And that was that on PS3 or was that just a 360?
I think that it came out for both. I'm actually 100% it came out for both systems, but I think that the 360 is the only system that had a collector's edition.
And it's probably the better place to play it, especially for those early games that came out during that time period. They definitely had a better resolution and frame rate on the 360 comparatively, for the most part. My next one, man, I just realized all the rest of mine, except for my last one, are multi packs. But this next one is another series that's kind of stuck on that last gen, and that is Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2. So Dragon Age Origins also has a expansion called Dragon Age Origins Awakening. So it would be those three as a trilogy remaster, because we already have Inquisition that's on the PS4 and on the Xbox One. Those are backwards compatible. You'll be able to play those. And probably have a patch, when you release this, do a little upgrade patch on Inquisition just to bump up the resolution and frame rate. But I'll never forget, I was late to the Dragon Age Origin party because, and I don't, this game and also the next game, unfortunately, because I don't want to say this in a mean way, but sometimes when you have roommates, it's detrimental to the games that you want to play. You see more of the game that you want to see.
You don't get to experience it as a immersive first-time player. You're walking through the living room and you're catching a glimpse of some level 30 boss, and you're like, God damn it, I didn't want to see that or know that was coming, you know?
Or story elements or like whatever. If you're hanging out in the living room and you're like, God, I'm hanging out here and he's playing it, I could leave, but I guess I'll just sit here and watch. And so then you end up like damaging your own interest. That happened to me with Dragon Age Origins. And so I didn't play Dragon Age Origins and complete it until like 2013. It was right before the first Last of Us came out. Because I had The Last of Us. I bought it right when it came out, but I was saving it for my shutdown, for my vacation. And I was trying to finish up Dragon Age, and I'm like, oh man, I think I'm going towards the last boss. I only got a few more hours left. Well, that few more hours turned into 8 to 10. And I remember like staying up all night and in the morning, and I'd beat the game. And I'm like, you know what? This game was way more awesome than what I thought it was going to be. And I wish I would have actually went back and played it. But it's just that issue of, man, I saw too much of it, and then my hype for it went down. But no, bring those games forward, because there's no real way to play them. Like, maybe they're backwards compatible. I don't know for sure. I would say for a lot of these that are on the 360, odds are there's like 500 games. There's a lot of them. The big ones are probably going to be backwards compatible. And this is another one published by EA, because this is also made by BioWare. So odds are, if you have Game Pass, they might have these Dragon Age games on there. So
that's awesome. All right, Brando. I was looking at my list and I'm debating. Man, there's like, okay. You know what? Let's kick it back to the start of the show. Let's press X to Jason, because I think Heavy Rain is the perfect choice to get brought to the modern time.
So it kind of already has.
Really?
I believe it's on the PS4. I believe they brought Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls to the PS4.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, it's worth a Google. But no, like that is a great game. And if that's not backwards compatible on the PS5, then it should be. However, you do bring up a good point, because now Quantum Dream is no longer, they're not going to be making games exclusively with Sony anymore. So for the past little while, for Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and for Detroit, they've all been released on PlayStation platforms. Henceforth, I believe they have been put on the PC, Epic Game Store, maybe. At least Detroit has.
Check it out, bro. They released the Quantum Dream Collection.
Yeah.
Which was Detroit, Heavy Rain, and Beyond Two Souls in one pack for the PS4.
So what they need to do, they need to do that upgrade and put it out on the Xbox as well. Because now that they are no longer, married at the hip as a second class developer or second party or whatever you want to call them. They're not owned by Sony. They were never owned by them at all. Because if you remember, like Indigo Prophecy came out on both Xbox and PlayStation way back in the day.
Yes, it did. Sounds like there's a tantrum happening. Holy cannolis.
Dad life. Podcasting.
What's your next pick, bro?
Podcasting dad life. So I'm actually going to, the next two picks that I have are actually now on opposite side of the fence. So the first one is going to be the first pick that I'm going to talk about here is going to be these were on the PS3 exclusively, and the next pick they were on the Xbox exclusively. So so this first one, it can't go to multiple consoles because it's still owned by Sony. This is a team owned by Sony. And I was really surprised, like throughout the entire life of the PS4, these games never got the quick remastered release for $40 treatment. Infamous 1 and 2.
Ooh. Yep.
So, like, because Infamous Second Son was a near launch window game, and it was pretty good. It wasn't great, though. That was the unfortunate thing. After, 1 and 2 really set that bar, and 2 kind of like, Infamous Second Son kind of went, it's still good. It's still good. But we didn't really bring all that new to the table here. It just looks better. Well, and then the company would, the devs, they would then pivot away from Infamous, and when they would create one of last year's most hyped games, Ghost of Tsushima, and one of the most graphically appealing games I've ever seen. But I feel, coming onto the PS5 even, that you could give Second Son a little bit of an upgrade, but upgrade the first 2, bring those forward. I think there's an expansion, right, for the second game.
I do think so, yeah.
Like, is that, I can't remember, Festivals of Blood or something like that?
Brain not remember.
Brain not know. But I do know that was kind of hard to find a physical copy of that expansion. But no, Infamous 1 and 2.
I love that pick. I'm going to switch to Doozle It Up, take a Wii game not talked about, and bring it to the forefront, because I think we need Mad World in the modern. Like, bro, that old school hack 'em, slash 'em, beat 'em up game was the shit. Black and white, bloody red. I love it. Give me more of that.
Yeah, I mean, you had Greg Proops as the really flamboyant announcer. I believe that's a Platinum Games of Sega, right? I believe that's Platinum. It feels like a Platinum game.
Platinum Games published by Sega.
Man,
wow.
Look at that shit. Look at that.
That was quality.
Dude, no, like that see, that's a really cool gem on the Wii. And see, as we move further away from the Wii, a lot of these games that are gems that you had to shovel through a lot on the Wii to find some really awesome games.
No More Heroes is another one.
Yeah, No More Heroes is great. The second Red Steel was way better than the first one, but the first one really turned a lot of people off, including myself. But they had so many games geared towards kids and shovelware that even some of the games that you would think would be crap shovelware are actually pretty decent, but you actually have to go to YouTube to see video of it to go, oh wait, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of games like that on the Wii, and it's even better if you own a Wii U, or if you're able to have one of those still and keep it in good shape, because you're going to get those games looking the best that they can look currently by having them connect via HDMI port. So
what's your next one, my dog?
My next one, it is a double pack. These aren't directly related to each other.
Again, from the Xbox, right?
Yeah, this one is these were released exclusively on the Xbox 360. These 2 games do not go together storyline wise, so these are 2 separate games. However, they were both made by the same team and the same director, and that is Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey from Miss Walker. And of course, they were made by Hironobu Sakaguchi, the guy that made Final Fantasy. And, he went over there and made Blue Dragon. If you ever played Lost Odyssey, it feels literally like a Final Fantasy. And these are games that have just kind of flown under the radar for a long time now. Blue Dragon definitely keeps that, it has that Akira Toriyama motif that a lot of the characters, just like the Dragon Quest series or a Chrono Trigger, some of those games, they all look like Dragon Ball characters, essentially. So, really great games. And there's actually another game, and I didn't put this in there because these were on the 360 only, and this next one was on the Wii only. But The Last Story was another game that company had made, and it was only on the Wii. So maybe you put out a trilogy of Miss Walker collection, Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, Last Story as these RPGs, up-res them, frame rate them up, throw them out there.
I'm about it. I would buy 3. Well, I would only buy 1, but 3 in spirit, because hell yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I just when I was thinking, like, I realized I had one that was just for PlayStation. I'm like, oh no, those are perfect picks, you know.
Love it. All right, well, I'm gonna bring my last regular pick to the fold because I do have a bonus pick, but it bends the rules. So
okay,
my last regular pick is just based on a game that I love. Nothing in particular stands out about why I think it should be remastered, other than I think the story was phenomenal, the gameplay was incredible, and I also want to note how we have not had one crossover. So if this isn't the crossover, like we haven't had anything that like was the same pick. So if it's not this one, then we did really great, I think. But Singularity.
Ooh,
that game was fucking amazing.
Singularity, I remember that.
My neighbor took them N99s and he's up in my assholes. Because there's the whole, if you find there's a bonus Easter egg, if you go to one of the lockers, there's a letter and it's written in, it sounds like Bo Rat wrote it. And it's talking about how in the neighbor, you know, he took his neighbor's whatever and his neighbor took whatever from him. And you know what? I'm just going to find it because it's funny enough to read on here. So.
All right. While you're saying that, I'll actually go because I actually have 4 more picks. Again, multi-collections here. The Final Fantasy 13 trilogy.
Okay.
You know, it's not my favorite, but they went through the hassle of making 3 games, and they're only available on the PC. I think they're on the PC, but like on consoles, they were only available on PS3 and 360. So why not release a trilogy? 13 trilogy, up-res that. But the other one that I came up with was the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 collection, and that is because there are remasters of, 7, 8, and 9, and even 10 and 12. But 1 through 6 is not available on like any major consoles. And so what I would do, because of the ones that are out, now this is where it gets hard. So 1 and 2 would be the PSP ports. 1 and 2, those are made in 16-bit on the PSP. 3 and 4 would be the DS ports. So like those were remade from the ground up. 3 had to be because of bad code. And 4 followed suit, where like they redid the character models, and 4 they added voice acting, so they really brought that one up to speed. There's a version of 4 that was on the PSP that's called the Complete Edition that came with the DLC that was only exclusively before that released on the Wii. That one could be on there, but I figure since 3 is getting the DS version, people are probably going to want the 4DS version to go with it. But then for 5 and 6, I'm going with the Game Boy Advance versions because they are much better translations of those games. And then, of course, across the board, you can clean up the graphics a little bit if you want that, or you can have the old style graphics so you can flip back and forth. As well as I would include like options for like a remastered soundtrack. So you can have a remastered soundtrack or original soundtrack.
Love that.
Did you find the letter?
Oh, yeah, I found the letter. Here we go. I have to read this aloud.
Like Borat?
I'm going to read it like Borat. My neighbor is painting my assholes. I got the bear made of fur. He must get the bear made of a fur. I get the can of meat. He must get the can of meat. I get E99 technologies. He cannot afford a great success.
What the hell?
And that was just in a locker because E99 is one of the main mechanics of Singularity. It's how you use it, like how you use your power. So he's just referencing, it's literally a quote from the movie, but instead of it being whatever I think the last thing is, he can't afford it. Great success. So I always love that. I took a picture of it on my old phone way back when, one of my first camera cell phones, when I was like playing through Singularity. I was like, oh, that's awesome. But all right, I have my bonus one.
All right.
And I want to bend the rules because I do think that this is a game that deserves a full remake.
Okay.
I think it deserves a better story. I think it deserves the most graphical excellence any company could provide. And I think that when I say it after all this buildup, you're going to give me the most what the F look ever. The Punisher.
The one on the old Xbox and PS. Oh, that one was fun.
Yes.
That one was fun. Man, that game was brutal.
Yes, it was. You could dunk a dude's head in a fryer.
In a fryer, I remember using a drill. Like one of those like drill bits. Oh, man. Yeah. You know, like especially like, can you imagine if you could kind of do an original story but get John Bernthal to do it?
Oh my gosh, all about it.
Hell yeah. I mean,
did you hear us, Marvel? Make that happen.
Come on, man. You guys made that Deadpool game a long time ago. Make this. So I'm just going to go ahead to my bonus pick because mine, I'm not going to remake it. It is going to be in the same style. So the graphics are going to look dated, but they're going to look shiny.
Shiny, but dated.
Yeah, it has sprinkles, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, nice little callback there. Anyway, but it has to be updated due to rights issues, due to names, due to roster. You know, basically it has to be modernized in every facet of the form, except for not rewriting the original material that made it good. I'm talking about WWF No Mercy. So you remake No Mercy. Basically, what you're going to be doing is taking the original game, make some improvements to the source code if you can, collision detection, and maybe you'll be able to make some changes to it to where like the frame rate doesn't slow down as bad when there's more than two people doing something at the same time. But then for roster, you can't have a lot of the old people in there because they're just not in the company. They're either, some of them are dead. I mean, let's just be real.
Exiled from the company forever.
Either exiled or like they don't work there anymore, or they're dead, or it just because the company doesn't have rights to every single. Of course, this was the WWF game. They're not called that anymore. So they would be WWE. So like you would be basically, because they made a game, and I'm not sure if you played it. But they made a game in the interim in between like them starting over from the 2K series because they bundled it so bad on 2K20. But they made a game called Battlegrounds.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so it's on PS Now, and I've tried it, and me and Wyatt have played it, and it's a little fun. It's bare bones. Completely, it's super ridiculous. Like you can destroy the ring, you can have environmental damage. It's like and everybody's like really teeny, like and like kid sized almost. But they've got like Undertaker, and Undertaker always wrestles with his hat on, which is hilarious.
I love that. And
you unlock characters by you do stuff in the game, you get money in game. So like there's kind of a microtransaction incentive here. But when you collect them, all the characters are they're like action figures, and they're all inside the thing, and they're trying to get out. And you can, when you unlock them, you unlock like different costumes for them and everything.
That's awesome.
It's also the only game so far they've had that feature Gronk as the playable character. Gronkster. Anyway, no, I would take that same idea, but bring back No Mercy, because No Mercy is long heralded. Do this specifically for the diehard wrestling fans. Don't release this as like this is the replacement for 2K20. Keep working on that. Get a smaller team together to look at No Mercy, bring it forward. Don't update the graphics completely. I want them to still be a little block. I want that N64 charm, right? They don't need to look fresh and like completely smooth, but they don't need to look horrendous either. And just put the modern day roster on there. Get as many modern day legends as you can fit on there. That makes sense, And yeah, put out a modern day No Mercy edit. It's like No Mercy 2.0 or something like that. But see, then of course you could go through and you could try to like animate some new moves, because there's some moves that have been invented or done by modern superstars that weren't being done back then. And a lot of people in the modding community play the game on PC, and they find a way to mod moves together. I've seen some crazy stuff done on the online modding community, and seeing what they're doing. Give a team the right resources to be able to sit there and do it. I think it'd be fun. Release it just like you would like a Battlegrounds. This is a game that
make it like NBA Street for WWE,
something like that. But it's like something that's not going to graphically be pushing the boundary, so you can put it on everything. Because Battlegrounds was released on the Switch. Of course, the newer games have like 2K18 went to the Switch, and it was a nightmare. It still is a nightmare. It's a waste of your money. Do not buy that game. But Battlegrounds runs fine because it's kind of like a much smaller game, almost kind of like a mobile type game, like in terms of how it looks. So, no, man, like that was my bonus pick. I thought that'd be kind of like, again, I want to remake it, but I don't want to remake it because I feel like once you start messing with it too much, then you mess with the formula of what made that game great. Great.
I feel you.
Yeah, man, that's it. That's all I got.
Cool.
That's all I got. So hopefully we'll get some of these nice, cool remasters in the future. And, but in the meantime, I mean, we got some cool new games coming out, sort of. I mean, everything going on in like everything going on in the real world is guaranteed to slow stuff down. I mean, they're making a remake of Pokemon Snap. If you care about that,
I do care about that. I'm big excited.
Yeah. So is Dick. Dick was excited about that. I'm not really, but that's just me. Because I've never really like got that into the original because it's basically like a rail shooter, but it's not. But you're not shooting anybody; you're taking pictures. But I mean, we got that remaster of Skyward Sword coming to the Switch.
That's cool.
Did you see anything about that?
Yes, I did. That's amazing.
So like they're making it to where you don't have to do motion controls; you can do the stick slashes.
Oh yeah.
So like some different stuff, but no, man, hopefully we'll get some new stuff down the line, like especially while we're waiting. I feel like remasters, number one, you can use them for cash grabs, but number two, you can use them for filler time in between those big time games, and let the developers have the time they need to make those big games as good as they can be, and don't rush it out. In the meantime, maybe you start like, hey, the same team, like, just like that WWE thing. They're working on that new 2K21 or whatever. Maybe it comes out this year. Maybe it doesn't. Hey,
well, if it doesn't come out this year, it'll be 2K22.
Yeah, exactly. But, it's just like, it's like, Dragon Age. It's like, we're getting a new Dragon Age. Like, they've already announced it. Dragon Age, whatever it's going to be called. Dragon Age 4 or whatever. So, we're waiting on that. We got the Mass Effect trilogy. Why not work on those old games and bring those out? That way the whole series is playable, and it's sort of like a $60 cash grab, like in between you could catch players up. So yep, that's all I got.
I think maybe one extra bonus just to throw it out there finally, lastly, in the quick speeding rounds as a lightning round, the Left 4 Dead series. We need Left 4 Dead in this world.
We are getting like a spiritual successor to that that I saw. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like the Left 4 Dead series. And if you see gameplay of it, you're like, wow, this is Left 4 Dead. I think it got revealed during the Game Awards, and I can't remember what it's called. But the moment I see it, it's like a play off the title Left 4 Dead.
Okay.
So like, yeah, when we get off here, I'll have to show that to you guys. But thanks, Nate, for joining me on this little special episode here.
Bro, thanks for having me back on Game Addicts. It has been some time. It is always great to pop in here, chat it up with your amazing audience, promote the shit that we're doing as always.
Yeah.
And, get on.
Yeah. So we do have some other shows, and first and foremost, the new show that's out now, the hit show Rank 'Em All, which is a podcast where we listen and rank to some of our favorite artists and bands' discographies. That's out now on podcast services as well as YouTube. Check it out. Or go to the website at rankaball.rocks. Of course, Nate is also the host of the Journey into Comics podcast, which I frequently sit in on, and you can check that out on all the same places, and check out journeyintocomics.com.
I thought you were going to say that you frequently host it for me when I have to work.
Well, there's that. I have to sit in. Man, me and Tyler, we were just like, man, I just feel like we're phoning this one in because we were both tired. But
I feel that.
It is what it is. But also, you can also check out the in-game boss program with my buddy over there, and he's got a couple different shows over there. Rocking that out there. Of course, you got the in-game boss podcast, and then you got they got a movie podcast. Like when Jeremy met Nam, so they got that going on over there. They got another one too. I think there's another series over there.
World Trade Game Show, bro.
Yeah, the world. Yeah, I was building up to that. I was trying to remember if he had like any other ones, but yeah, I do a show with him called the World Gaming Trade Show, and it basically where we take it's kind of like what we did here today, but instead of just doing remasters, it's like what games haven't been touched in a long time, you know. So what sparked the idea for this episode was a game that sparked on the last episode where I talked about Brutal Legend. And so it was a remake of Brutal Legend, but it was a spiritual successor. So it's a sequel where you don't have to play the first one to play the second one. And Nate, I think you'll really like some of the conversations that we had on there about that, or at least my ideas, because it really, it was a love letter, even more of a love letter to the metal world. But yeah, go check out In Game Boss Program where you can find out all those cool podcasts. In the meantime, that's going to wrap it up here on the Game Addicts podcast, Nate.
Yay!
And until next time, I have been your Player One Brando.
I've been Player Two Nate.
And we will catch you later on down the road, guys. Game on.